Hello and welcome to Great Train Layouts Live, where we build track layout plans in Trains Railroad Simulator for your education and entertainment. I am, of course, your host, Nick Ozrak. It is great to be with you on this Thursday evening if you are watching this live. And if you're watching this on repeat, well, it's great to be with you whenever is convenient for you. Today, we are building the Morton branch of the Milwaukee Road, although we are going to be giving it a fictional freelance kind of spin thanks to our sponsor, Jointed Rail, creators of the Eagle River Railway route and rolling stock. We're going to be playing with that later in the stream once we've had a route to build. So let us get right to it. Hope you guys are having a great night. As always, I will try to respond to your comments as I see them. If I don't get to them right away, apologize, but I do enjoy having the conversation with you guys. Let us take a look at what we've got to play with here. So the Morton branch is, in real life, a Milwaukee Road branch. It was built by other railroads, but taken over by the Milwaukee pretty soon after its construction in the early 1900s. Morton being at the end of the branch. Logging. Logging is the name of the game. Pulling logs from a private railroad out, as well as bringing, hauling lumber products out. So this is a very timber-heavy region, and still is. So the Morton branch was in use up through the 70s. It is if you're not from the West Coast, the best way to kind of relate to it is if you've heard of the Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad. The Mount Rainier Scenic runs on a portion of the Morton branch. And I think historically they did some excursions to Morton, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just going to turn the music up a little bit down in my own headset. As always, let me know if you have difficulty hearing me. So, this is the end of the line. So we're modeling logging, but this is not the land of the Shays, the Climaxes, and the Heislers. This is the 70s-ish is when the track plan is dated. I don't know if we're exactly adhering to that for what we're building. It's kind of fluid enough to kind of be anything post-70s. We'll see. Although, truth be told, you could run steam on this. But we're going to be having fun with diesels. So let's talk about the track plan itself. 9 by 11. This track plan comes from Realistic Railroads You Can Model. From Model Railroader was a special issue they put out, looks like in the like around 2019, early 2020. So a lot of interest. I've really enjoyed reading this special issue. A lot of interesting track plans. But at the very end is this bad boy here, designed by Eric Williams. To my knowledge, never built as a real layout, and maybe it has, but I've not seen photos of it. So, yes, good to see some of you, Mr. Railyard, Matthew Harris, Dakota Plays 3, and John Overman. Funny because geared steam locomotives is what comes to mind when I hear logging, and I think it does for a lot of us. But it's worth kind of exploring, since that is kind of the thing that we're all familiar with. It's kind of nice to look at a different era. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this kind of backwards, I suppose, depending on how you look at it. We've got the staging, which goes underneath the layout proper, and I am going to build it that way here. So we're going to build the staging, and then we're going to realign the overlay to build the upper level, because that's going to be the easier way to do it rather than building the upper level and trying to do the staging after the fact. Connect the dots time. We are going to lay out our staging yard, which is large enough. The way that the operations play out, you have about 2 trains that do round trips. More if you want to augment it with, let's say, some sort of RDC passenger run kind of thing, or an excursion train. So the Eagle River Railway, part of its fictional lore is that it does run excursion trains. And there are some steam locomotive packs you can get from K&L trains. So that's something that you could stage on these tracks as well. But we're mainly going to be playing with freight today. And I have a feeling that today's build is probably going to take us even once again into the time frame of playtime a bit. So we'll probably have, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Hope you guys are doing well. Would love to hear about your modeling projects, what you've been up to in the past 6 weeks. I know that usually I try to aim for these streams to be in the middle of the month, or the third Thursday, but this month became very busy, so I had to shuffle that around. So I appreciate your flexibility for those of you who like to tune in live to what we have going on here. Put a straight there, and then I'm going to put a straight there, and that should work for where I want to put my switches. Like so. You know, there's a wonderful meditative quality to laying track in this game. Once you know what you're doing, it's the kind of thing that if I'm not with you guys, I'm listening to a podcast or music or any number of things, but this is something where I can have something a little bit more demanding on the background because I'm not having to think too hard here. At least not for something like this. A yard like this is pretty easy and straightforward to create. This is like just kind of the meat and potatoes of the rebuilding. The pre-visualization fun really begins once we're starting that scenery. Then that's like, okay, what do we want to do? Recognizing where maybe the designer was a little over optimistic in what they could do, and so we have to scale back our ambitions a wee bit. Because I've definitely encountered that with some track plans where it's like, well, this worked on paper. It does not work quite the same, quote unquote, in real life. I mean, sometimes train simming feels like real life, and I mean, I suppose it's a form of real life. You can define that as you see fit. So, looking at the chat, Matthew Harris, I've not seen 20. I know you love 2816, Matthew, but I have not seen it this year. I'm probably not going to, which is a bummer. I'd love to, but it's the kind of thing where my work schedule is filling up, and I have to, because I travel a lot for my work anyway, I have to be very selective about what trips I can afford to do that are just for chasing trains as opposed to my day job of filming them. Okay, you'll have noticed that we've omitted the turntable. Why did we omit the turntable? Well, that's a Train Z limitation, because Train Z does not like building things underground. I cannot build a turntable that the game thinks is underground. If it weren't right under another piece of scenery, then maybe, or track lane, then maybe I could get away with it, but we're going to be building a river on top of that, so it's too complicated. And for the sake of the sim, we're going to be able to turn around our locomotives really easily, so we don't need a turntable like you would in real life. I suppose it's the kind of thing I can replicate with just a spur, just to say that we have it. We'll put a spur there, sure, why not? I guess you could say it's a spur of the moment thing. I love my jokes. I hope you do too. I love my jokes, and I hope you do. So, and this is also a spur of the moment. Well, actually, this isn't spur of the moment because this was planned. That spur is supposed to be in there. And we'll get to the elevations in a moment. But we're going to just add the turntable as a itty bitty display track. Well, not display, but spur, just so that it's kind of represented. I might have to tweak what I do there, but I think that'll work for what I want. So, Mr. Railyard, do you think this could be a BC rail? Yes, this could very well be a BC rail. I think, like, scenery, and honestly, like, in terms of the basic track plan, there's a lot of different ways you could interpret it. Except for a couple of tricks, which we're going to talk about. There's a couple of things that are specific to what this is trying to emulate. But for the most part, yeah, BC Rail, and really any part of the country. And I think that's one of the interesting things with track plans is sometimes stepping back and saying, okay, what if I don't want to model this as it was intended, but I like the plan, so I want to do something with it. Oh, Pacific Productions, thank you for the support. Spur of the moment sounds like a San Juan Trains episode. Yeah, actually, it does sound like a San Juan Trains episode, knowing how they like their puns. If they're listening, they can borrow that one. Okay, so we have our base staging in here at an elevation of 46. So 46 is going to be our 0 point for the sake of creating the grades. So we're going to apply a vertex height of 0 because, as you see, once we get to the upper level, we're going to kind of bury this underground. And I can tell you right now, like, there's going to be some off-stream work that I'm going to have to do as far as how we make it look scenically make sense. But for another time. Okay, so after this switch, we go up a 4% grade. So we could just plug in 4%. And we can just start to apply that grade coming right out of here. And then we'll check our elevations and see how well they're corresponding to what is what the plan thinks the elevations are going to be. So here, for instance, so by this point, we should have already climbed 6 inches. At this point, we've climbed, or 6. We've climbed, we should have climbed 4 inches. We've climbed more like almost 3, but that's going to be okay. Because I think the main reason that we have this huge climb is just so that we can have about, let's see, what is it, 8 inches? So the upper deck is 10 inches. So, yes, you have this steep climb because, again, you're talking a 9 by 11 room, not a lot of space. And you want to be able to have 10 inches of room to reach into your staging and so forth. So, from here, we continue the 4% climb. I should probably, before I do the rest of this, let's, since we've got our lower track in now, what we could do is we could take our base map. Well, we don't want to hide it just yet. We kind of need to do more connect the dotting. And we're going to overlay it. Now, obviously, the upper tracks, the tracks over there are kind of confusing. But if we just say this goes over here, and I'm going to temporarily undo that just to make sure I like that fit. And yeah, I like that fit. Okay, so now we will add back the grade. So we're making the grade. Add that to the list of railroad puns, potential San Juan Trains episode names that we can go with. So ideally we would be at 11 meters. Oh, we're at 17 meters. Did I get that? No. We should be at 2.2 times 10. Oh, we should be at 22 inches. Well, okay, we might not be that, but as long as we have clearance, we're going to say this worked. Oh, thank you again for the support, Pacific Productions. You wanted to ask if I could do an animated remake of the MSTS video that I did a long time ago called Runaway Train. That's interesting. Good question, Pacific Productions. So what you're referring to is way back in 2008. Very early days. I was just starting at the rail yard, but before I was doing at the rail yard, I was making these essentially just train simulator music videos. I didn't have... it was a way of building up my skills and kind of just starting to explore how to tell visual stories with trains. One of my favorite films has always been Runaway Train. And I'd put film, period, not just railroad film. Runaway Train, I could rant all day about how much I love that film. and not just because it's a train film. I think that it's a very underrated film from the 80s, artistically. So, great movie, and I wanted to just sort of emulate that. I'm trying to think back to my headspace of what I like, where I was creatively with that one. And it was basically just that I loved the movie. I wanted to pay tribute to it. I kind of wanted to, somebody had just released the train set of 4 runaway diesel locomotives, the titular runaway train. And I just wanted to do something creative with that. Um, it was also my first video using Adobe products. I edited that on Premiere Elements, and ever since I've been using Adobe products for my video editing. So I learned a lot through doing that. So, to the question of would I remake it? No. Because it was good for the... Oh no, did I put everything on the... I put everything on the base maps layer. Well, at least I'm not that far away. But I hate when I do that. Okay, so I'm going to move the base map to the Diggles layer. Lock that. And then I'm going to have to switch things all over later. Anyway. But I wouldn't remake it because it was a learning project, and I'm still... I mean, I've grown a lot creatively since I made that, but I still like what I made, ultimately. So I feel like there's not really anything I would... I mean, there are things I would change with it, but it doesn't merit... I'm not going to remake every old video I made just because I've improved. I think it's important to kind of appreciate the films for where I was at the time, because I'm always learning and growing. So, short answer is no, because I did what I wanted to with that. I don't really know that I have anything new to say or do with that. Never say never, but I don't see a story that I want to tell with that right now. But good question, and I appreciate the support. Oh, and speaking, I sorry, I wanted. Sorry. If I totally missed you. You're asking if you can remake. I mean, sure. You can. You're free to do as you see fit. I mean, if you want to mention me in the credits as far as like where you drew inspiration from, that's fine. But even if you don't, then by all means have at it. Because I definitely, without the rail yard, there were videos that I would see on YouTube that I definitely inspired me in terms of musical choices, or the style of video I went. Sometimes because I felt like there's something interesting about this, but it doesn't quite work for me, and I want to try to improve on it. So a perfect example of that is if you go way back to my review of the 1904 elevated, 1904 New York City elevated railway. There it is. There's a that route came out in 2007, and when it came out, there was somebody who made a video on YouTube where they'd set it was not a like the video was basically just watching the trains moving. It wasn't particularly like heavily edited, and the thing that I found kind of odd with it was that they used the song "While My Guitar Gently Weeps" by the Beatles, and it was a really odd choice. Like, it's not of the era at all. It doesn't quite make sense there. So in my review, I used an orchestral cover of that song during the third scene, which is usually where I talk about the faults of a particular product. So that was a case where I saw something and I improved on it. Simply to say, yes, by all means, Pacific Productions. If you want to kind of do your own take on what I did with the runaway train video, have at it. Now, let's talk about this. So we're getting into this kind of Yeti situation where it's like, how am I going to be able to build the top layer of tracks when we have this bottom layer of staging tracks? That is kind of confusing, and it is. So here's what we're going to do on that front. And I probably should have thought of this in advance. Well, no, we could do it. We'll do it a different way. And that is using the layers. So I'm going to create a new layer called root layer top. So I've drawn as much. Oh, I need to figure this one out. So before I get to that, wait, where did new? Oh, yeah, there's root layer top, and we're gonna move it right next to root layer. What I'll probably end up eventually renaming as root layer bottom. So based on this asset that I've used, oh, I know how to. No, because I still need a gap of a. I'm trying to figure out how I want to work this platforming because I like this platform, but it's a different style than what. I know what I'm gonna do. Do I want to do that? Basically, we've got these two tracks coming in on a ramp. Yeah, we'll just use a different asset. I don't think this is going to work quite right for what I want. So we're just going to follow the plan, which is to have the two tracks side by side, like so, and like so. And then we'll just scratch build our own loading dock. And I think that's going to work much better. And then we'll put in our switch point here. And did that do what I wanted it to? Yes. That looks right. Okay, so... and then we've got our... We'll replace the switches with actual machines in a moment. So this is all on the bottom layer. Now I want to hide these tracks, kind of, sort of, so that I can find a way to connect them. Which, to think of it, I probably should have gone back there. But we'll make this work. So I'm going to hide the root layer, which just hides the top tracks. And that kind of worked. But, sorry, I'm talking to myself while talking to you. So what I mean by kind of worked is, so we've hidden, the root layer had all the sort of bottom tracks. So I'm probably going to end up renaming as that, like, staging yard layer. And then we've got this, when I accidentally switched layers, it sort of proved to be a good accident because now these tracks are in the middle. So I'm going to keep these visible as I add a top layer of tracks. Point being that the layer system allows you to hide and show different layers of track, which is very handy when you have a lot of things going on visually in a small amount of space, and you don't want to be clicking on the wrong thing. And then I think the switch point for that will go here to here, and then straighten this out. Oh, even there, one does need a little bit of building with patience building trains with a Z. Despite the fact that I'm trying to connect it to this layer, for some reason, I don't like that Trains does this, you could still attach track and spline points to a layer that you've hidden, which is dumb. It's like, if I've hidden the layer, I clearly don't want to connect to it. Okay. We've made that work. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to connect those here and here. Straighten that out. So, Mr. Railyard, what's the update on the Fonda, Johnson, and Gloversville Doodlebug? Good question. I have not touched that in several months. I kind of got out of the intense 3D modeling that I was doing for a while. It's done enough. It will eventually probably see a release, but I have just not had time to focus on that. Actually, I'll tell you what I've been doing, big shocker, at least for me, is I've been actually working on my real layout, Greenfield Village. Um, I recently I just got in this mood of wanting to get that thing done because it's been kind of in this state of just honestly 3 months ago it looked pretty much like it did in August, like just building sitting on the grass, and I was looking at this and going, I want this to be complete. I'm tired of looking at this in an incomplete state. I want it to be done. And so I've made a lot of progress on it. I'm really happy with how it's coming along. So I might do a celebratory stream or something with that. Oh, thank you for the donation, Mr. Railyard. Um, let's see. So yes, that's been I've done some buildings for it. I paved a road using plaster. I faced my fear because I was not looking forward to that. I need the turntable. Probably the 115. Okay, so here's one of this layout's creative tricks, shall we say. So this layout, as you can see, we're trying to fit a lot into a little. And one of the things that Morton, Washington has in real life is a Y, which I don't know how long that tail track is, but the issue you run into is if you try to put a conventional switch there, you don't have any headroom for... excuse me. You don't have any headroom for being able to actually turn your locomotives. Because, yes, it's diesel era, so we don't need that function as much, but if you're running steam, you need that function. And honestly, there might be other times when you want to run around a couple cars here, and it's a good thing to have. So, what a sector plate is just a movable plate that you can rotate. So the idea with this being that you have this stretch of track, that rather than needing the room for a switch and the lead track, you just have this piece that rotates, kind of like a turntable. So rather than modeling a sector plate, we're modeling a turntable. Which I'm then going to place leads on, because we need our leads to be able to connect. Stub track, that's what I want. We're going to use these stub tracks. We're going to connect them in here and here, thereabouts. There, or doing it, move it. Let's see, if I move it here, what does that look like? That actually kind of looks more like what I want. So we'll move it there. It's a couple of steps over, but I think that works. So, now we can link that in. And we'll put a straight through about here. We'll need a straight here to link these switches so that they end up looking decent once it's all said and done. Then this is going to connect to here. And then once that breaks off, it goes to here. And then I need to straighten that to make sure it doesn't do weird, funky things. And we put our straight track like so. I might change that a wee bit in terms of the geometry of that too. So that's a team track platform. And then we need to link this spur into the proper, straighten that, which does some funky things. So we'll... I don't like how temperamental... oh, I know why it's doing that. Sometimes trains use temperamental. And one of those weird ways is that you have to have a separating piece. Otherwise it does those weird things. That Okay, good enough for me. Let's straighten that here. And then we'll adjust this like so. Okay, and we'll talk about what these tracks actually are and the industries are once we get to scenery shortly. But we are almost done with the track lane portion of things. So what we have going on here is going into the town of Morton. Once again, there we go. Working in multiple layers is cool, but it is also complicated. Yeah, let's talk about this. Okay, so what is going on here? Because you're going to look at this and go, wait a second. We've got this sector plate that's moving cars from here into here, but you don't have any headroom. So how does that actually work? Yeah, excuse me. So the idea with this is that there was a separate logging company, Cosmos, which had their own private railroad, and they would bring logs down from the hills for export. So these would be logs that would be sent all the way to Tacoma, Washington, and shipped overseas. So this represents an interchange with them, and we're going to put up a low backdrop so that in real life what you would do is you would roll the cars. Oh, I just realized you're not seeing my cursor. Let me make sure you guys can see my cursor, because then when I'm pointing to things it actually makes a bit more sense. Which is going to be here, and oh no, I am capturing the cursor. Okay, yay for me. So although if you're not seeing my mouse, then do let me know. So you've got a place where you could store these cars. You would move them by hand onto the sector plate, move the sector plate over, and then your locomotives are here, so they couple onto the cars, pull forward, and then you use your hand to move another round. Is it a clunky way of building up a train? Yes, and it means you do have to do sort of hands-on operation in that way. However, I would say that when you keep in mind that you don't have a lot of room to work with here, it is a clever solution for a way to build up I think the capacity is like 12 cars. So it is a neat way to have a 12-car train appear into your world. So to each their own. What we are going to do in this case, because Train Z isn't real life and we're not quite restricted to the same physics, is we are going to model it. How do I want to model it? Because we could model it where you have to move the cars over, but that is admittedly clunky. So I think I'm actually just going to build a track that is twice as long, so that we're... that was weird. Why am I not able to build... Oh, I know why. Because that's the end of the baseboard. Right. Okay, I'm going to have to add in a second baseboard. So we'll add a 10-meter baseboard here. And then I can add my spur the full length. Great. Okay, so what I'm going to do for the sake of Train Z gameplay is make this siding here. I don't know how I'm going to make that polished in the final version of this, but I don't have to worry about that right now. So that rather than having the cars here and you have to go between Surveyor and the actual sim to move them into place, you could just bring your locomotives in, couple up, and pull it out. I think that's a more elegant solution for the sake of the sim. Now, if you were using this to kind of test the concept in terms of play value, like, this is something you can't really test. Like, there's no great five-fingered crane option in the sim. Like, you're moving cars or you're not. But you probably know if you're going to like it or not. I mean, it is the kind of thing that, yeah, you kind of have to build it to see it in action. But you're going to get a sense of how you like the operations to know what your feelings are overall on what you're doing. And we're going to put our straight spur here and make sure that curve comes out looking nice. Yeah, we could smooth that out a wee bit if we get it to come here. And we'll connect that there. We'll connect that there. And I think, oh, one side in here. Mr. Railyard, are you running 2816? No, I'm not running 2816 today. Although that reminds me that Orford, which was the Canadian national route that we built last fall, is available for patrons on Patreon. So if you go over to Patreon and support the podcast Roundhouse Podcast plus Great Train Layouts Live for as little as $1 a month, you get access to early Train Z layout releases, including Orford. So that is available now, and that is a great place for big mainline steam. Including 2816. But 2816 does not fit this, so no, we're not going to be running that today. Hi, Thomas Fan 3751. Glad that you could join us. So, let us see. I think that is all of our track in place. Now we just got to work out the elevation, which is basically everything's going to be at the same height. So we've got a height of 18.83. So I think the grade, I think it has to be steeper than a 4% grade, because I know he says 4% grade, but 18.83 meters, when you do all the math into inches, let me see, 18.8 divided by 2.2, 8.5 inches. So not quite the 10 inches we're supposed to have of clearance, but honestly, still probably good enough clearance. And that's just going to be easier to work with, rather than making our grades even steeper than they already are. And they are steep. So we're going to get all of this raised up, and then we're going to raise up the land and the baseboard to meet this at. So, and I should lock that route later, just in case I do something that totally muckies with the lower level of track, which so far I haven't. And a preview of what we're to see in just a moment. So we're going to apply this height for all of our spline points, every single one, because this is just going to be flat through here. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated. This is just flat spline points. Except for the turntable, which we will get to in a moment. Because we can't adjust its spline height, but we can adjust its actual ground height, and then it will emulate what we are looking to do. And then we've got the spur, we've got that, and then we'll raise that up here, here, and here. And I think I got all the spline points, so now 18.83 is the land height that we need to go for. And I'm just going to raise the turntable for a moment so we could see what that looks like in terms of just visualizing all of this track. And then I guess I need to set that height. I thought that track was connected. Something funky happened there. Let me see. Need to make sure I'm on the right layer, and then I'm going to delete that and attach to here, to here. I guess I'll need to do a little bit more terrain sculpting there. Okay. And so, oh, one more spline point. And we set the height here. Now all of the upper level track is at the upper height. And if I show this track and I hide the baseboards just to Sorry, guys. Let me make sure that I'm actually back. It looks like I'm back. So, let me know if I'm coming through. Okay, I think I am actually back, but you guys can let me know if you're not seeing me for some reason. Everything looks okay on my front. All right, okay, thank you for confirming. Okay, so, I lost internet there for a moment. I'm surprised it's taken 2 years for this to happen, but it was bound to happen. I do not like my internet provider because it will just randomly cut out for like 2 minutes and then appear back. So, thank you for sticking around. Um, Appreciate you, those of you who stuck around. But, oh, jeez. Well, anyway, so as I was saying, ta-da, here we are. This is the completed track plan. And you can see that we've got plenty of clearance. We can run trains underneath and over, which is the main thing. It's just basically you have enough room to get your trains over and under, and you have enough room for your hands here. So, that is our track complete. So now we are going to start working with the terrain. So to do that, we're going to temporarily bury the track underneath here. We're going to eventually use dig holes to reveal it. Actually, how am I going to want to do this? Excuse me. Okay, yes, and that's contained by that. So I think what we'll do is we'll use the fascia. I'm going to draw out the fascia to sort of guide my thinking of where the dig holes are going to be later, as well as where I'm going to apply scenery to. Thomas Fan, honestly, I never joined the rail as Eagle River Railway. It's a scenic looking and quaint tourist line. Yes, if you, they just revamped, Joined the Rail just revamped Eagle River for Trains 19. And I totally recommend you check it out. You can get it from the link in the description of this video. And thank you to Joined Rail for sponsoring this live stream. So we're going to put some fascia in place just to kind of roughly mark where our scenic boundaries are, more so for the populated area. We have a little bit more flexibility with this peninsula that I will figure out later. But this will kind of use as a guide for when we raise the terrain up. And I need to remind myself where that staging is beneath us, or beneath the main visual layer. Unfortunately, because of Train Z, we're not going to be able to adhere quite to these wonderful, beautiful curves, but they will serve as a guide for what we are going to do. So, good enough. And then from here, we can raise the terrain up. So we'll take that terrain and we'll just raise all of this up. At least this part here. We might do a little bit more of a sculpting approach for the peninsula here. But we'll figure out when we get to that. I think I want to spend my time focusing on the city, because I want to make sure that is scenic enough for playtime. Whereas the peninsula, we're just momentarily running over until we get to there. So this is going to, it's mainly just going to be, we've got a wood trestle here, which I'll have to replace that piece of track once we've got a wood trestle. We've got a log loading spur here, but it's mainly just woods. It should be pretty easy as well. Oh, I'm glad you like the music, Mr. Railyard. Could I do an interview with Ace? You mean the guy creating the 2816? I'd have to ask him. Maybe. Don't know if he'd be into that or not. But maybe once he releases that, we'll see. Okay, we're gonna raise up the baseboard so that we can use that as our guide for how we're gonna lay out the town and the industries. Here, like so. Yeah, perfect. Oh, can I see? Well, no. There we go. Okay. We have we've got a nice little downtown buried in the mountains here. These are mainly just buildings not served by rail. Although we do have pools, seed, and implement, which receives kind of seeds that would be shipped to there, so you'd be receiving covered hoppers. We have a pole yard here and log reload. So longer logs that be used for things like telephone poles loaded here. And then, of course, this lumber spout, which is mainly going to be hidden. So let's, in fact, do that. And I'm realizing I haven't created an asset for that. So what I'm going to have to do is off stream this fascia that we have, which I don't want to put on the wrong layer because that's something I'm prone to do. So this fascia is I'm going to make a blue version of this, and then that can be, or actually I could use the green one. I have a green fascia that will work for this. Just to simulate, there we go. That's what I wanted. So this is going to be our fake backdrop. Eventually I may make one that's actually blue, but again, this is just illustrating the concept for now, and we'll worry about the particulars of the detail later. Downtown buildings. I did a lot of shopping already for this, so I'm hoping... Oh, was that the turntable I'd meant to use in there? I forgot that it was the turntable I'd selected for this. A little bit less grandiose than that big one there. Let me just take a quick look and see if... Oh, yeah. Right down to the fact that it fits better. The tracks aren't quite where I want them. But it's also... yeah, the tracks don't quite fit as I was hoping they would. Even though I like the look of it better for this. Oh, well. So, let's see. I picked out a bunch of trucks, but I did pick out some downtown buildings. I figure out where they're going to make sense. We've got a grocery store here. And some housing. I might put here. I'll have to see if that makes sense next to the commercial district so close. But we can play around with that. Fuel tanks, we'll get to those. Trailer. And abandoned boxcars for yards. Okay, here's another downtown building. Which I might actually end up putting that in its place, or did I intend for that to be one of the mills? I think I meant for that to be downtown. Here's our downtown strip. Now you can see we've got this nice curve with using separate buildings, whereas here I've just got one flat one, but this is what's going to work better for the sake of time on this. So I'm going to lay it... how do I want to do this so that it makes sense? I might just place it flat against there and have the road parallel this way, rather than following the track. We'll do that. I mean, it's interesting to have the buildings kind of follow the track, but we'll just... I think it'll be easier if we don't. And then we'll have this at an angle over here. And then the house. Do I still want the house here, or does that feel a little odd and overwhelming? Maybe a bit. I like the idea of that we're kind of transitioning from the down, like it's a really small downtown, so then it transitions pretty quickly to more residential. Maybe if I move this back just a bit more, then that makes a bit more sense. I can live with that for now, and I can always replace it if not. I have a feeling I meant to... RCP building. This one... Oh, this must have been another downtown building that I was intending. Oh, the house. Okay, so this is a house. All right. That makes a bit more sense, because now we've at least crossed the tracks. So we'll put the house there. And then this could go here, or it could put it next to the tracks there. And I should probably lower that fascia just so it isn't distracting me so much. So we will set that of a negative 9.3 height. And no, I know what I did wrong. Okay, let's just adjust the height, and then we'll apply that height. That works much better. So again, using this as our kind of template, not a hard rule, because I'm actually probably going to have to adapt this a little bit so it goes more like here, which is a bit wider on this pole yard than I want to go, but that's okay. And then I'm not quite sure how I'm going to block the seed and some of these here, because that curve is kind of a nice visual element. I might use a ground spline. I don't like using ground splines. They're not the most attractive. They're hard to camouflage in. We will work on that. We will figure that out. In the meantime, we need a depot. A nice, cute little depot. Go right in the center of town here. And I thought I had picked one out. Maybe I hadn't. Oh, yep, I did. Here's our depot. And in this case, we've got this town. And I know it says Pioneer, and I'll have to reskin that eventually. Nice little building that fits in the center. Feels like it would have been of the steam era, but feels plausible that it could still be around. Then we need a platform for over here. I'm not really sure where I intended to put this building. I think I'd envisioned it over here, maybe. But it's kind of not serving the purpose that it needed to. Unless we had... Well, I need a building front for that. I need a fake building front for that. Of some kind. Or just maybe trees. I could do trees there. I'll figure that out later, but we'll delete that for the time being. I need a feed and seed place. Let me see what I've got in terms of feed. Oh, yeah, maybe that'll work. Let's see. Yeah. Good enough for my taste. It's maybe a little old in architecture, but it is feed. I like that building. Let's lower it up. Well, no, actually that is the right height, because it should be at that level. Yeah, I think that works. And I can always, if I'm not entirely sure, I can revamp that later. Can I show what we get with Eagle River? Yes. Well, and we're at the halfway point of the build, so sure. We'll take a quick look ahead at what we could expect as far as rolling stock. So, with Eagle River, ERSX, that's what it is. You get boxcars, maintenance of way equipment, interesting switchers, interesting cabooses, and a couple of different flavors. A GMD1, which is quite possibly my favorite of the included rolling stock. Just because that it plays into my Canadian roots. I love that locomotive. You get 2 GP15s, which went on the lower track, so we'll put them up here, which is, I think, what I'm tempted to play with, and it's what you saw in the video thumbnail. I think that's what I'll be playing with, but if you have a specific motive power request, or want to vote on that, you can let me know in the comments. A GP40, MOW hopper that goes with that, this funky caboose setup. And new, so that was all stuff that was included before, but in the new version, these wonderful SD24s, courtesy of Audi. These are gorgeous models. I might be tempted to play with these. A low hood SD7, XBNSF, and some box cars and some logging flat cars. So a nice mixture of stock for being able... Oh, and wood chippy. So nice variety of rolling stock. Plenty of kind of second-hand motive power to really give you that feeling of an 80s, 90s logging railroad. Nice modern assortment of things. So quick peek at what we're going to enjoy later. What is the center cab called? That's a BW9. That's a fictional locomotive. Jointed Rail did a bunch of different schemes with these BW9s. They're cute. They're kind of based on EMD switchers, but there's no prototype for this. They're just cute. So, let us build the 2x4 mill. So, Morton had 2 mills, both of which would get their logs, they'd get the raw lumber by truck, but they would ship their end products out by boxcar. We're going to build those mills, one of which we get to see the mill in the scene, and the other one we allude to. It's kind of not within the scene. What did I envision for this? Next time I should leave them, or sorry, remember what I had in mind for certain buildings. But let's see. Not what I was looking for. I do want lumber stacks, but not yet. Crew office. The crew office was going to be the oil dealer, if I'm not mistaken. Because I like that as a building, and that feels like it could be an oil dealer kind of building. We'll build that right about here. I might actually have to move the tanks, because they showed the building next to the tracks. But I feel like it makes more sense to have the building over here and then the tanks next to the tracks, because you'd have the pipes and whatnot to connect to the tank cars over here. Right, where did I put that? Okay, here's the mill that we're using. Mountain Lumber Company. I like this model a lot. My man Rico made it for me way back for stream number 1 for a different layout build. It has a sled down to a log pond, but that's going to be cut off by the background. And then we have a beehive slasher. Or slash burner. The hash raining, cash singing. Tell me if you know that reference. Bonus points if you know that reference. What I'm going to do is I'm going to raise that up a little bit, and then I'll put a platform. I can't raise it up, but I can put a platform out here for basically simulating where you'd have a loading ramp for the box cars. We need a couple of platforms, aren't I? All right. I think that maybe that was why I had picked out that other building, is just to give myself options with, no, I already used that one. And that's the truck. I do like having options for different buildings. And I use that one there, that's storefronts, different lumber mills. I put this list together a couple weeks ago, so I'm kind of having to remind myself what my intentions with certain things were. Let's build some tanks, though. I know I had tanks. Let's build tanks. Fuel oil tanks. We're gonna build a bunch of them here to represent having that. And we're going to try to get them all roughly the same angle so they don't look odd. So, 3. So that will be for the tank car that gets spotted, since that's a fuel dealer. Yes, Thomas Fan, you get the bonus point for recognizing the SpongeBob reference. Let's find a good platform. I always find myself lacking good wooden platforms. Wood platform. Platform, loading dock, etc. I like that model, but that's too skinny. I like this one, but it looks too new. And the white paint on it, I don't know. I kind of wanted to match the other design too. Those are narrow. That's a low platform. That looks like new. Maybe this will work. Yeah, kinda. I guess it'll do the trick. I could just layer a bunch of them and it'll work. I don't love it, but it'll work. We'll just do a bunch of them next to each other, like so. And then vary the height on the one just a bit so that it's not having that distracting Z fighting. 0.1 applied to there. Oops. I always forget that I'm not working with a true 0 on this layout. That is a little confusing. Okay, so we have a loading platform. Although I feel like it should be covered if they were taking products out, but maybe it doesn't. Canopies. I do feel like it needs some kind of canopy. Mind you, not a fancy station canopy, but some kind of. And when I search canopy, all I get are fancy station ones. But you see, oh, I know what I want. JR open, I think. That's what I'm looking for on that. Oh, hey, Joe Bernard. Open shed. Yes. Do I want the... Yeah. It's a little overkill. It's a little daunting and big. But, I could lower that a bit. Just to have it a little bit more in line with the building. And then make the track a bit longer. And then move the beehive cash raining back a little. And then you just need to move this spline here. Like so. And make it the extent. That does fit nicely. I'm inclined to go with that as an approach. I mean, I'm not sure about the... It does feel a little odd in that way. What if I went with the other style of open shed? I think that's about as big. It's smaller, a bit more reasonable. Yeah, we'll go that route. Also because I can't bury a lot of things in this design, because they'll be visible on the lower shelf. So, this I like. I like that. Works for me. Good enough for me. I'll get a better sense of what I want a bit later too on that as I go in for super detailing. Small platform here we're going to use for, it's a team track unloading. Yep, team track platform. So for unload, this is where they would unload log loaders and things like that they'd bring in by flat car. So that gives us yet another thing we can place where we can spot cars. So it's just going to be a question of what platform makes visual sense. Obviously not something very ornate with brick and stone, not an icing platform. Something like that, but the ramps make it too long. That's too fancy, too long. Certain things, you could spend a lot of time just trying to find the perfect right thing in this game. You can spend a while searching for it and never quite find it. Sometimes you just have to make it. Yeah, all of that platform. See, I like the look of it, but I need one that's small and doesn't have a ramp on both sides. Because that is what makes it tricky. All these ones with the extra ramp. It's like, I don't want ramps. 0 ramps. Perfect. You read my mind. There we go. That will do a good enough job for now. And I'm going to extend it a little bit. Extend the track a little bit. Just to have enough room for a flat car. And then buffers. I mean, if it was skinnier, we could fit in a little more, a little longer. Do we have anything else? Because I don't want to spend too long on this. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Perfect. At least more perfect. Little bit longer. We can go with that one. And rather than doing full buffers, we could just do like a little tie stop or something at the end, so you just have a little bit more room to put a flat car on that track. And taking a look and seeing, I like some kind of modern building for the backdrop. Where did I put that pulp building? We'll get to that part. The pulp building I am looking for is this one. I'm tempted to have this as kind of like in the back, although that bright blue really looks odd with the bright red of that, so maybe we won't. I'm gonna go with that as it is. So I'm gonna need some kind of, I'm going to put another backdrop with the forest backdrop here, just to have something that makes this divided off from the rest of the design. And apply the height to it like so. And then I'll put some trees in. Let's take a quick look at that without the, and then as you can see here, this is just going to be all, actually I should do this while we're on the stage of making these platforms. Old voddle, very narrow. Will that fit? They'll fit. I mean, I really don't want the ramps on both sides, but I do like that model. Old model, narrow. Is it narrow enough? Kind of. What I'd like is if platform old model came without the ramps. But I suppose I could just make use of more of these. I mean, they're not super high detail, but at least I know they'll work. And I could get them 0 faces with 1 ramp. Perfect. Okay, that's what we'll do. So I'm going to put this one here. So there is a ramp going down this way, but not at the other end. And same over here. At this point, I'm just trying to get all the buildings fit in so I can kind of look at that as a scene overall. And then we'll do, because ground texturing on this, we've got so much in terms of buildings there will be some thought to ground texturing, but it's not going to be rocket science. At least I hope it isn't, since this has definitely been an involved build. So, yep, okay. That looks good. That makes me happy. Meters, we're American, we only use imperial units. I know. But sometimes you have to use these assets from other countries because they actually do work better than ye old American options. I'm going to stagger that just so it has a little bit of visual interest associated with this. So this is another mill that'd be receiving boxcars and pulling them out. Let's see. Jordan Freeman, you think that I'm doing what you would do? Not sure which thing I'm doing that you would do, but I'm glad I'm doing it. Whatever it is you would do. All right, let's take a look at what we've got so far as buildings. Oh, did I put all of those on the session later? Gosh darn it. Me and my ability to put things on the wrong layers. Because yes, I put all those. Well, that's not too bad. I can move those. But let us hide the base map, and then we can see what that looks like. It looks good. It's going to look great once we have the backdrops in place, and I think I want to do that next because that's the part that really excites me the most, is doing the backdrops. Let's see, we're at 820. So, yeah, doing the backdrops. Oof. And how to do the splines around here, because I want to figure this out, because I'd like to put the dig holes in. Ironically, I'm probably going to put the dig holes on the fascia layer, and all of my layers are screwed up tonight, but we'll make it work. So I wouldn't mind squaring this off a bit more so things work. But it's also true that in this case, the platform could hide this. This one I could probably hide if I put dig holes across here. We'll need to experiment with that. Because I'd like to, for the sake of play, put our dig holes up and then we can actually see the trains below there. That would be nice. Make it a little easier when we're playing, even though mainly the stage is just going to be I'm going to bring a train out. Let's do some backdrops, because I feel like the backdrops are really what's going to make this. And I know which backdrop I want to use, because it's a DS one, and it is it that one I want to use? I mean, that's a nice one, but not quite what I'm going for. I think that's what I want to use, is 7. Okay, 8. Oh, yeah, 8's the one I was thinking of, but I like 7. That is a nice asset. It does cast a shadow, so I'll have to make a clone of that at some point that doesn't. But for the sake of this build, it will work, and it looks really nice. Although it looks a little compressed there, so I'm going to have to run it down the length of our tail track and then over here. And then probably raise it up a bit. Because right now it kind of feels like we're on top of the mountain looking down, and that may still be an issue with it. I want it to feel like we're looking up at the mountains, not down. Probably 19 height will do the trick. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I still feel like maybe the photographer's a little bit too high up on the mountains for my taste. But I also feel like if I'm here, I'm just seeing trees. I think this one's better at getting the feel of being at ground level. That was 7. That was 3. Let's try 1. Oh, there's one. Oh, one and one with no shadow. Got it. Um, I think I like one the best, honestly. Because I like the way those distant mountains look. I don't feel like we're super high up in them. Although I like the colors of this one. Or do I do my own backdrop way from Kootenai Lake? Or not Kootenai Lake. Commonwealth. Maybe I prefer that backdrop. Because I do like that backdrop. No. Not for here. It's a nice backdrop, but not what we're going for. It needs to be wooded. Let me try another wall of this. See, this is the part of pre-visualization where you have this layout and you have the ability to try these different backdrops without having to actually purchase and install them and see if you like them or not. Which, now, speaking of pre-visualization, now is a good time to remind folks that I take commissions. So if you would like to have my assistance with helping to bring your train layout to life, which I would love to do, feel free to reach out to me on greattrainlayouts.com and be happy to work with you on that. I love bringing people's visions to life. Not just my own. Like, this is one I've been thinking about and I've been very excited about. Which is probably something I say every time I do these things, but it's true. I really genuinely get excited about these builds. I get an idea and it's like, oh, I just want to go for it. I would have been tempted to build this off stream, and then I found another plan, which I have been building off stream. At least I started off stream. I might finish it as part of a stream. I don't know yet what I want to do on that front, but we'll see. Okay. I like that. I mean, I'm still concerned that maybe it's a little bit too... Oh, I need to raise those up just so I can kind of see what I think. What layer did I put? Oh, and of course yeah. I'm going to have to put those on a separate layer 2 eventually, but they'll work for now. I'm going to raise that up, up, and away. I don't know. I think that's actually pretty good. I do need to adjust the length of this a bit so that it lines up. Oh, there, like that. And then that end also needs to line up a bit more elegantly. I mean, don't stare at it too hard. And I might end up doing a custom backdrop for this eventually, but if we're just like looking at the town, I do feel like we're in the mountains. I am liking how that looks and feels. Can I curve? No, I can't curve them because otherwise it'll do weird stretching things. That's true. Let's see. Jordan Freeman. Oh, the sector plate with the turntable. Yep. You'd also connect the hidden signing to the turntable. If you're talking about this one, it just is a design to be connected to the turntable there. And for this sector plate, the idea is that you're moving the cars by hand. So see how kind of conveniently this is hidden? And actually, I'll show you how conveniently hidden it is. We're going to put the forest backdrop in there so you can really see that. And for this one, yeah, I guess we might as well leave it on the root layer. So, forest backdrop. That's something very pine tree heavy. I'll need to try a few of these out and see what I like the best. Yeah, probably that one. Okay. So we're going to put a forest backdrop through here. And then a second one through here. And then we'll put some... I'm going to put... I'll have to think about what I want to put there. But third one here. We'll fix that one once we get to that point. But now... now you're really seeing this concept in play. So, as we discussed earlier, the idea with this is you've got this hidden siding right behind your town, so that you can reach over and pull the cars out onto the sector plate here, and you can fit probably 3 at a time. Move the sector plate over, and then bring them onto the train. And in our case, we're just making a super long siding to kind of simulate that concept. We need a pole yard here. And so I do actually have an asset for that. Oh, right, building the downtown street. Don't know that we're going to have room for that, big boy. Some of this was grabbing assets and being like, I don't know that this is going to fit, but I just want to have it so I can play with it. Ooh, that is a really narrow spot for that street, isn't it? But it's not like I'm cheating, because I think the building really does go that far out. Interesting. I might have to change our range track. I mean, it works, but I might have to tweak it a little bit. But we do have a little bit more room over here than we do in the original design, because I'm giving us some extra space here. So, since I'm doing that, what I will do is I will move these sidings out a bit more, just so I have enough room for... I don't need a ton of room. Oh, is that my lower level? Yeah. I need to hide those. There we go. Oh, and of course I put the fish on the lower level. Yeah. Only can worry so much about so much at a time. But we're going to move the track and those buildings over here. Yay. Like so. And then this can go here. I'm going to have to move those buildings. And interesting. We'll probably put that like so. That's the main question is, did I do enough to be able to... did I do enough to be able to make that work? Very narrow sidewalk, but yeah, we have enough room there, and that works. So now I just need to move the buildings over. Gonna have to make this reappear so I can see where my borderline is. But yep, that'll work. Ever so nicely. And then where does the road cross over? Because there's a road crossing here. Does that cross over a switch? Oh, it's supposed to be right before the switch, I think. Oh, yeah, the road crosses and then the switch happens. Alright, well, we could probably move the switch. Oh, and I moved the lower level. So, need to move the top level. I'm going to move up like so. And then here. And then I'm just going to move the seed. Wool seed here. Move that a bit up, and then I have enough room for a road, and I have enough room for the house, and everything's hunky-dory. Good. Yay. I like that. And now I have room for an actual road downtown, which is nice. I could have done like a single lane deal, but I think I should have this much room to work with anyway. Let's see. I'll get to your question in a second, Thomas Fan, about your favorite jointed rail, or my favorite jointed rail route. Jordan Freeman, you'd stage the hidden cars on the hidden siding behind the buildings. Then when it was time for them to appear, take a diesel, put it on the turntable, split it to connect. Oh, hidden siding, push the cars past the switch where it could be accessed by the layout. Yeah, I guess then you just have a lot of work in terms of you'd have to take your diesels to here, push the cars out, then bring them out to fetch them from here. It's doable. I mean, or I suppose you could have like a little hidden diesel that just pushes your cars out. I mean, honestly, that's probably the most practical thing is just buy some like cheap switcher. I mean, it doesn't even matter what because you wouldn't see it. Use the cheap switcher to push the cars out, uncouple them, and then clear the sector. All right. I think we're back once again. Sorry, guys. Once again, my internet decided to cut out. Uh, as I mentioned earlier, I do not like my internet provider. It is my only option for where I live. So, really sorry about that. Hopefully, we are not interrupted again. But thank you for sticking with me. For those of you who are still here. So, you have not missed much. I added another building here to the Mountain Lumber Complex just because I like how that looks a little bit better. So with the remaining 20 minutes that we have on the build, I'm going to focus on just basically ensuring our ground is covered, adding a little bit of detail with some sidewalks and so forth. But we will see what we can fit in the next 20 minutes before we get to the play section of things. So I'm going to put the road here, and then this road I want to have intersect it, and maybe something like this. I mean, it is awkward having the... Nope, actually that looks okay. Okay enough. Now I need a sidewalk. Let us see what our sidewalk options are. Not cobblestone. Yeah, that looks similar. I actually, now would be as good a time as any to mention, I have been to Morton. I was out in Washington State for the first time last year. And so I got to visit Morton and see it. And it is a how would I describe it? It pretty might be the wrong word. I mean, it's definitely kind of one of these, like, it still has mills that are still active. I think resilient might be a good word for it. It definitely a resilient town in that it has nice bricks. Run style. Is that... Yeah. This, I think, looks too perfect and pretty. Though it does kind of match the road color, because it shouldn't be too bright, the sidewalks. I'll keep that as one option. Sidewalk 12 feet. Yeah, that'll work. Not terribly elegant, but it'll work. So, yeah, there's still are mills in Morton. The rail line to Morton still exists. It hasn't been used in quite some time and needs rehabilitation, but it does exist. How am I going to navigate putting the cross? Well, actually, I don't need a sidewalk over here. Sidewalk just needs to go to the building, so that makes that easier. And we will need to lower the height of the road a wee bit to get it to work as it should. Like so. So we'll get the height there, and then apply it to here and here and here, just to get it uniform across this. And then we'll put a new sidewalk in place here. That's going to go along this block. At least there, abouts, yeah. And the sidewalk can go here. That needs to keep it straight form so that way it can go to here. Yeah, that's looking legit. I'm happy with how that is coming along. Have a sidewalk here for the grocery store. I do feel like maybe I need another building next to this grocery store, or maybe I just need to bring the grocery store out. Although I am that red building, that red industrial building that I had looked at earlier, maybe that would fit nicely in the corner of here. Oh, I should add those storage tanks because I think I'd also allotted these for the fuel depot. JR Building 5. Yeah, I think I had it in my mind that this could go here. Which it could, but maybe it... I don't know, it's maybe a little overwhelming industrial-wise, even though it fits. Sometimes you don't want to fill things too much either. Morton's not a crowded town. It's not like everything's on top of it. Okay, I think we're back. I am so sorry about these constant interruptions, guys. I know that they are annoying, but it doesn't seem like it's going to go out permanent. I mean, this is what, like, I'm not having any bad weather. There's no excuse for it. All right, guys. I'm going to stop apologizing because this just isn't my fault. And it just is what it is. So, I'm going to hope that that's the end of it. I mean, it's not like the weather's doing anything weird here or anything along those lines. So I don't even know what to tell you on that front. Let's just get right back into it. So I've got these streets here. I want to have a yard here. And I do think I want to have some equipment on site to kind of give a sense of just a bit of variety as far as what we've got. So let's get some logs, which I do have. I have some loaders, and like this guy here, which is kind of an interesting critter. It feels like something that you'd have for loading poles, and then somewhere in here. Oh, right. I did want to put that sign somewhere. I thought this was a cool sign. Although maybe more apropos, like slightly outside of town. Somewhere along here. Something like that might be the trick. I mean, there isn't really, I don't know. I'm not going to worry about a small detail like that. I was looking for the logs. There we go. That's what I wanted. So, some pole-like logs, which I can have stacked this way, we'll say. Like so. And then we'll do some ground cover, because the buildings are pretty much in place. Let's see what I want to do here. And we'll just do the ground cover for the town proper and work that way. So we'll start with a base. Because we're in town, I'm going to go with a dark dirt. And then we'll accent it with grasses and so forth as we go. It's a lighter dirt. I want to... Not that dark. Yeah, that'll work for me. Here's our dirt. And then we'll kind of... Okay, well, I don't know if anybody is going to see this at this point because it has been a half hour of being offline. So I'll stick around for a few minutes and see if anyone returns. But if not, I'm going to end this. Which is a bummer. I can't apologize enough for this, even though it is not my fault. Sigh. I mean, if this is the first time it happens in 2 years, that's not the worst thing. But it's still rough. So I'm going to do a little bit of work to see if there's anybody still around. And if there is, great. And if not, well, then we'll just... I will figure out when a suitable part 2 could occur. I want some PBR grass. Oh, hey, Jimmy. Glad you're still around. I like that one. Something kind of different. Maybe a bit too woodsy, but an interesting different kind of color. I'm going to use it for some of the areas, like, especially towards the backdrop. I think that'd look nice. Need to put some bushes in place, too. Well, looking like you might be it, Jimmy. So, I think we're probably going to wrap this up. And we'll just have to do a part 2 at some point of this. Maybe even before the May date. Let's see, because yeah, right now, 3 viewers. Ugh. Oh, well. Thank you for those of you who had the patience to stick around. I appreciate it. That was, obviously that was frustrating, but these things happen. I just wish they didn't happen at this time. I mean, honestly, it's an issue that like it comes up even even during the week. It's just this is the first time it's come up during a live stream. But I think everybody's kind of gone away, and I totally understand that. want something dark. Oh, that's kind of an interesting one. Having fun with these different colors. And we'll just do a final flourish before I sign off. And that's going to be an RTXT. I have to remind myself which track this is. Oh, gravel 2. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a quick polish, and then we'll take it from there. No, that's SP. I need gravel 2 PPR ground text. There we are. No, that can't be right. No, it is SP. Okay. Alrighty. Which looks good. I'm happy with how this looks. We'll probably plunk a train down just to have some sense of victory and like there it is and it looks good and all that kind of stuff. Slowly climbing back in views. Oh, thanks, John. Appreciate you handing it around. Yeah, Jimmy, the issue I have is just I have no other choices. Like, I wish I had choices. But I don't. I've got one choice, and that's it. And they suck. I mean, it's great when it works, but then it's these random outages I've got to deal with that just don't. You know, it's not great because like a lot of my work involves being online, not just for this stuff, but for my Streamliner media stuff. So it's really bad when I have to deal with the inconsistencies of connection. Oh, we should probably put a nice grass there. Yeah, and then should probably have some kind of sidewalk or something leading up to the house front. Not quite sure I want to do that. Maybe just have it going off to the edge. I mean, I'm gonna have to figure out how I want to do those dig holes, but for now, just to have something in place so it doesn't look totally strange. It's gonna need some more vegetation to blend it in with the backdrop, but oh, we're slowly rebuilding our view count back. Maybe we'll keep this train rolling. So how do I want to do this? I don't think the track plan. Yeah, nothing really defined between there and there. Honestly, I'm inclined to put some tree. I mean, trees don't make sense. Yeah, maybe a fence of some kind. I want to feel like there's a little bit more space between those two things. I mean, there should be a chain link fence. That does feel like something that needs to exist there. And we'll put that on the top layer. I mean, it's maybe a little high security, but I'll go for it. It's not entirely implausible. And then we'll just kind of fence it off to here. I mean, it looks legit. I just need some more variety in the PBR dirt. Because right now it just looks too single tone. There we go. And yeah. And then use this around the mill buildings. I mean, I'm really happy with how this is coming together. I mean, that's a legit looking scene. I'm happy with. Oh, we're slowly rebuilding our view count. Excellent. Okay, we're getting there. You can keep this rolling. We'll go a little later than usual. Like I usually keep it to 3 hours, but from the perspective of the replay, it's probably gonna end up being 3 hours anyway. It's a weird business. Um, if I keep going, then we can have an. I can probably. I don't know if I have enough time. I'd like to get to the peninsula though. I think we'll call this good enough because I did envision this as a one-stream build. So, I want some bright yellow haze bumpers for this. I usually go with very subtle rusty and brown. This I want just want really bright yellow. Or maybe not all of them, but some of the major ones. And we'll put some more subdued one. We'll put a rusty one there. We'll put a rusty one there. This isn't quite sitting right with me. Like, yes, it's feed, but I don't know. Let me check my article for what kind of service the feed mill gets. Yay for research. Dealer that served local farmers with supplies and bulk feed. Okay, so there probably needs to be some kind of like silo or something, but not like a farm silo. But if we have a silo and maybe like a dump, then it could be implied that cars are dumped there and then they go into some kind of silo. Like, not that small industrial silo type of thing. Might be the trick. Interesting buildings, not quite what I'm going for here. Oh, like, yeah, something like that, but way smaller. Loading silo, nope, nitrate silo. Yes, like this. I mean, I don't know how realistic this is, but in the spirit of it looks like it could be a thing, I'm going with it. There we go. Yeah, I like how that looks. So the implication is that then you'd spot a covered hopper or a boxcar or something like that. I think that works. I could super detail this, but I really feel like I want to just see if we could get through laying down a base level, base layer of scenery for the river scene, and then this mountain. That would be nice. Maybe I'll do some dig holes, just so that we can see a little bit. Like, I'm not going to worry about this corner because I don't know how I want to do that yet, but we'll get a little bit of dig hole action just so you can see the tracks. I don't know, maybe that's more distracting than it's worth. Okay, so the track plan, what does the track plan illustrate for around here? Oh, the road goes, it crosses over there, and then it starts climbing, and it bridges over a track. Yeah, we'll get the highway in, we'll get the river in, and build everything around that. Okay, so the highway is over here, and that's going to keep at this same elevation. Making sure I get the right layer. I mean, it is tight on that platform. I feel like maybe I should probably, instead of that platform, use this. Just to, that way, yeah. Because if the road's there anyway, you're not going to be unloading lumber that way. You're really going to be transporting it to the mill that is implied to be out of scene. Like so. That way we can end the platform in time. We can have a fence cutting that off. And then the roads. It's a little odd the way that the road crosses. I like the idea that it follows, and then there's like an underpass here. So I'm gonna go with it, even though I do question the realism of it. But sure, we'll go for it for an interesting perspective, I guess you could say. So we're gonna apply that height to the road throughout. I mean, I do like how that looks, admittedly. Oh, I need to get what the road height is in town here so that I can get it to cross over. 1864, okay. We'll apply it like so. Oh, I like that. I do actually like that. I think it has a kind of like that. Yeah, that's Pacific Northwest. Yeah, that's cool. I dig it. I'm gonna straighten that just so that my next pieces don't do super odd things. I mean, I don't think you'd have a road for the switches because you need log points for that, which seems complicated. But to be fair, that is what the track plan shows. Is that you have the road going right through the switch point, which maybe is a bit odd, but again, it looks cool. You could always do it with third or something. This isn't always about how you would actually build it from a modeling technique standpoint. Sometimes it's just about conceptually we're figuring out a thing, and if we like the thing we figured out, that then you later get to the part of figuring out how you actually build it in real life. So we're going to apply that height, and now from here we're going to start the climb. And I'll probably want to turn on my base layer to kind of loosely remind myself where I'm going to have that road crossing. I think it's probably going to be here. But if I look at the base map, yep, there. What was it the dovetail guys said? There's never nothing there. Yeah, something along those lines. Those silos aren't too far off from those of the milling company on here in West Loudon. Good. I'm glad that it seems plausible. That's what we're going for. Because there's probably, I mean, it's obviously based on a real place. I wonder if it's a place that's still in business. Then I could actually see what it looks like. But for the ease of things, I think I'm just going to leave it as is. Because I really want to do this peninsula. We've got a road in place. I'm going to need to build an AASHTO bridge. Let's get a... yeah, let's get the terrain lowered or leveled to about the height of that track. Or actually, probably the height of this one. That's going to indicate a lot. That's going to be an interesting thing to figure out how to make it. I'd probably just have it disappear behind some trees as how it ends up going underneath. Something along those lines. And then we'll raise the whole of the peninsula to about yay about. Ooh. That was an interesting shortcut. So this gives us our rough landscape for here. And I do say rough because I am going to have to raise the bulk of it up here. Including this little divot here, because that's obviously too low for anything. And I'll need to lower that to get it out of the way. Although I'm probably just not going to worry about that right now, because that's going to be very much a later kind of thing to figure out. I like the scene, though. I like how this is shaping up. I do worry that switching on the grade is going to be tricky and trainsy, but if it's just essentially like you'd pick up a couple of logs and that's it, that's not too big a deal. We'll then raise the Spline height of the road bed along here. I think over here's where that bridge is going to go, if I remember correctly. Yes, so the bridge is supposed to kind of go along here. That's going to be a wood trestle. I'll leave that as it is for now. Then here's our rough terrain. So we've got this highway here, and I think what I need to do, I need to level the terrain up to the highway. Yeah, and then I can lower that back down. And then this, basically disguising this as a mountain, because this is all going to be woods anyway. So the fact that we've got this really abrupt grade transition, or geographical transition, is not a big deal, because I think it will still make sense in the context of things once we put the trees in. It'll just look like a really steep hill. It'll hide the road so that you can't see it from down here. But then when you want to look at where it crosses over the bridge, I do think that's a nice way to go about it. I do think that that feels Pacific Northwest, to have that kind of scene. And then this, I'm inclined to just do one big ol' hill, because you don't have a lot of space. You want to make this feel bigger than it is. You're also not going to be able to view the layout from this way, because the idea is this would be against a wall. So you're only viewing the layout from here. But I do want to make it so that if you're looking at it from here, because you can in the sim, that it looks nice. So yeah, something along those lines. So big old hill in the center. Is there supposed to be a river that bridge connects to, or is that just kind of going over a gully? Oh, there's interesting. They have a river, which I wouldn't have to do, but I think I can have a go at it. I think maybe we'll just split this mountain in half, essentially. So you've got this very perfect anthill kind of thing going on. And then we're just going to slide this down. Yeah, I like where this is going. And then that river is just going to kind of disappear into this hill, so that you have the hill and you have the trees burying it. You can't quite see where it goes, but you just get the idea that it goes elsewhere. I can dig that, because then you can't see your train from the other side. And we've got this nice trestle scene. That's going to be really sharp. So I need a trestle. Ideally, I need a trestle that's going to act like regular track, which these ones do. Perfect. Although I want to be on the right layer. So I'm going to delete this. And then just connect those two. And, ooh, perfect. I've got my trestle. Ooh, oh, that's a nice scene. I like that. I like that a lot. That looks pretty. Put in the river. And I just want to make sure I like this. So I'm going to maybe flatten this a little bit more. Just to, oops, looking for the use height tool. Just flatten it a little bit more, just so that way we can have a little bit more sense of a camp with the yard office. Just to get a little bit of, because we don't really have a logging camp or spur. So this is it. So we're going to give it kind of bits of the flavor of it. Oh, glad that you dig the trestle, John. Matthew, you missed me having headaches with my internet service provider. You did. Don't worry, you haven't missed much. Yeah, we got the town mostly done with its industries. That's about the extent of it. So I want to put the bridge here. I'm probably not going to perfect this side of the geography, but if we could get this side looking sharp. Oh, the one thing I wish is that Trainsy was a little bit more forgiving about looking through objects. I might make a backdrop in the long run that's visible from one side, so that then don't. run into this issue when I'm trying to look at the trains from the other way. Anyway, let me... What am I going to do here? Oh, I knew I want to put the rivers here. I want to put a river here, but I also realize that I have to keep things going, and I might just have to forego that for the sake of the stream and add that in later. Because I could just kind of round that off, and it'll look okay for now. Yeah, but the stream shouldn't take too long to build. Let me get my stream built for here, which I'm probably going to square this off, and that's the easiest way to handle that. Actually, I can. I almost wish it was going through a cut, though. Like, yeah, like that's a good transition point. So, like, after this bridge, it goes into a cut, which I think looks cool. Like so. And, yep, then we lower some of it. I mean, I'll have to refine this later, but just to get the major idea in place. Oh, I know what I should do. Yeah, there we go. Then we won't have that issue with the background. Okay. I need a river spline. So let's go to the rivers. And I'm going to probably put it here. And then adjust the height of it. I actually like that river, so I'm going to use that river specifically. Not quite thick enough or wide enough. I need something a bit wider. The river, 25 meter. There we go. Water 4. I think that, yeah. Although I feel like I always use that one. Water 2, maybe? I really like that CL river. I kind of want to use that, even though it may be a little thin, but I'll make it work. So, up a bit, here, and here. Obviously, it's got to be at the same height, so I'll do that. And then raise the bed just enough so that the river's closed on the side. I'm tempted to drag this out one more tile to give it, give it a little bit more depth. Oh, I almost have an idea for a split river. Makes me think of something that I saw when I was at Mount Rainier Scenic, where we lower this, raise that up, and then there's like one channel here, and then there's a second channel. That could be kind of a way of disguising the fact that this river isn't actually all of one piece. Like so, here and here, and then we just get really delicate and creative with the, like so. And then I'm just going to lower this by a little bit. And then pull it forward. There we go. That's what I had in mind. And then lower this a little bit more. I mean, maybe I'll be able to actually use it as a whole thing. But I kind of like the separate channels meeting. I think that's actually kind of a fun visual element to it. Yep. That's what I'm doing. And I like what I figured out when I'm doing. I can't thank you guys enough for those of you who stuck around through the past half hour of the outages. Thank God that's not a monthly occurrence. 'Cause I really like having fun with you and streaming these builds. This is something I look forward to doing every month. I'm really liking how that's looking. That makes me happy. Maybe I need to go up a little bit on this just to make it look a little less. I don't know that I want it to be super wide. And I also don't know that I want the hill to look too abrupt. Even though the mountains out there, I mean, they have mountains. Uh, when I was out there, I was staying in this cabin near, or an Airbnb, with this wonderful view of Mount Rainier. It was gorgeous. Good times. Oh, that's fun with the split channel. I'm happy with that. Okay, so we've got our bridge, we've got our river. Yes, I'm missing abutments, but we are just going for broad strokes here because I want to get playing with the trains in 5 minutes, and we're still looking at a lot of gray. So, basically, we're just going to go for, let's cover the ground with stuff. I will get a proper AASHTO bridge here. So... bridge. I need a 2-lane. It's either AASHTO or it's yarn. That could work, but that's also a bit wide. I think I want a yarn bridge. 4-lane. Yeah, I'll just use the typical yarn bridge. I like that asset. And then we're gonna get the height. Apply the height to here and here, because I want to spend some time driving trains. I want to show you guys what today's sponsor, Jointed Rail, has in store for us with their Eagle River add-on. There's some nice stock in that pack. Ooh. And then I come to do this and realize, I might need to make that road a little higher. So it's got to go all the way. Man, that is a steep climb. Because that's got to fit. Well, let's put a train under it. ERSX. This can be our... Oh, okay. It's not quite as tall as I thought it had to be. Let's lower that back down. And then get the height off of that and try it over here. Yeah, that's too low. So, okay, we need somewhere in the middle of those two extremes. Fair enough. And like, how about here? Okay, that seems like what we're gonna have to go with in order to clear the structure. I mean, that is not a lot of extra clearance, but sure. Man, that road feels, I don't know. You know, I like the idea of the bridge, but in practice, it's like, then this is why pre-visualization helps, because on paper, it's like, sure, you have this crossing here and then it goes up to this bridge, but in reality, it's like, that is a steep road. I'm not digging it. So, we're just going to use a standard road crossing. And get that. And we're just going to have it go to here. We are going to forego all of that fancy schmancy artistry of the bridge. Neat as it was a neat idea. And that's why we pre-visualize these things to see what works and what doesn't. Because some things look great on paper or computer screen. I mean, yes, this is also a computer screen, but you know what I mean. Some things look great as a concept in a two-dimensional form, and then you bring them to the 3D realm and you realize, actually that doesn't quite work as I'd hoped it would. It's still a really cool track right now. I dig it a lot. We're going to need a crossing for that so that it doesn't look like the track is sticking out. So we're going to put a crossing over there. JR picking. And we'll do rubber, so it has kind of a modern vibe to it. Do a lot of wood ones, which, well, it is an older branch. Guess it depends on how recently it's been worked on. Because I could go a few different routes on that. Because I could go wood grade crossing, but I feel like I'm always doing wood crossings. For sure. Let's say that one had to be upgraded recently. by the highway department, and so that one is rubber mats. I dig it. Something different. And then this, I mean, yeah, I guess I could just do rubber mats for that too. Kind of hides how weird it looks. Maybe not entirely, but good enough for me. I have no idea how I'm going to hide, what I'm going to do with the switch stand either. That might just be an invisible switch stand, because that is a switch stand that really doesn't have a good home for it. But I'll probably leave it in the middle of the road for now. But let's get this painted. Let's get this treed up, and then let's get running. Now for this, I'm gonna go with one of the forest bases. I think that's a nice color. As a base color, and then yeah, that's a very nice color actually. That's our base, and that's what we'll use pretty much through here. And then I'm gonna, just for the sake of keeping the show moving along, could get that river in place, but that's gonna take even more time. And as it is, we only have about an hour and a half to play with our choo-choos as it is. So I'm gonna go with that for now, and I'm gonna put some trees in the foreground. Let me do another texture just to give it a little bit of variety. Yes, so this is another forest ground texture. So I'm gonna use this so that it's not all quite as single color, uniform, whatnot. Then I'm gonna use a bit of the dirt over here by this mill, just to kind of suggest that, hey, there's a mill there, and it goes to a place. And then dirt along the edges of the highway would be kind of nice. Although, yeah, like that. Something along those lines. I need those trees. Oh, and I need ballast too. Let's put the ballast in just to kind of refine the look of this a bit more. Like so. But I like what we're sketching out here, because I think that there's a lot of operating potential in this. Really gonna play well. That I'm confident of. I always like the model railroader articles when somebody comes up with the plan, they're really good about detailing how it would run. To me, that's part of the what I like about it, is because then it helps me to visualize the concept that I'm building on when it comes to actually designing the layout and so forth. Because for me, I'm an ops guy through and through. I say that, and I am working on Greenfield Village, which is largely a roundy layout. But when it comes to, if I had space, I'm ops. Alrighty. Well, we pretty much returned to our viewer numbers, so thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate having you along for the ride and the journey of it. We are going to plant some trees. We're going to do some some RMM elks. Because there's definitely, like, this is going to be actually very, very, very pine tree heavy. It should be very pine tree heavy. This is timberland. You want trees, and we want lots of them, and we want them to be tall and pointy. So we're going to get a bunch of trees in play, and that one I'll probably move over here. But yes, plenty of That's maybe a tad tall, but you shouldn't be afraid to have some tall ones in the mix. And we'll do this. Yeah. Different kinds of elks, like that. Admittedly, okay, that one's good, because I want to be able to somewhat hide the fact that that's a river to nowhere. Somewhat. I can't say I'll perfectly hide it, just somewhat. And then definitely want to hide the back here. Definitely want to not show that that is the end of the world there. This has to feel like it continues on, so it should. I'm actually thinking it should block it out, where I might even put a backdrop in there just to make sure you really can't see from about here to about here. Which, I keep feeling like I'm going to be done, and then I keep getting obsessed over small details. That's kind of the nature of this thing. And then we'll put a higher level view block here, just because you possibly could do this without having actual backdrops. But it's also true that you have what you have to work with in this game. And when it comes to being able to kind of clearly view block something off, sometimes you just have to use other means. Let's see. That's another group. That looks good. Now I've camouflaged it enough to my liking. Maybe not perfect. We'll put some trees here. We're going to put a lot of trees here. Even though it's also true that that is supposed to be a river. But it could just be a forest in the long run. But it has to be a river. Let's do some group trees, because those will fit really nicely in there. And there we are. I kind of want to put that backdrop all the way along the back. So let's get that in place here to go all the way to here. About yay bouts. Here it's like, I don't know quite what I'm going to do backdrop wise, but oh yeah, that's looking sharp. This is the real deal. That makes me happy. So we do have this question about where walls and such will go, but we'll leave that. I do want to put a log loader here with some dirt, just so we have something. Or maybe not a log loader, but you know, that feels like a vehicle you'd have out there. Here's a log loader. Oh, I think that one. Oh, that's an eagle. Yeah. We'll just put this here. And maybe we'll get another one of those loaders from here. So that's the one I have. Oh, what was I envisioning that garage for? That's the first time I've clicked on that garage. I guess I could put it over here. It does fill that space out a little better. I'll delete that for now. That actually does look pretty cool. Okay. Any last... Okay, just a little bit of dirt at that loader. Just to have something going on there. Can't really worry too much about it at this point, but a little bit there. And... I'm going to say that is done for the sake of play. It's not 100% done by any stretch. But I think it illustrates the concept and what we're going for. So if I briefly do a fly around without all the distracting spline points, there you have it. The base of what we want, which is Morton branch in the 70s. I like how that looks. I like how that feels. Now I want to see how it plays. Hey, Mikey, glad you could join us. Oh, glad to see the numbers continuing to climb. I had lost faith when I had that outage. I'm glad to see you guys tuning in now. Now we're going to play with some trains. So I'm going to spawn. I am going to... Oh, that track. Something happened to that track. Which means I have to hide the upper layer to figure out what happened to that. Oh, it just isn't an account for the height. That I can fix. So if I apply it, there we go. Okay, yay. Yay for my my staging yard still being okay. So we're gonna set up a train, and since I haven't worked out the dig holes, I might just set the train up ready to go out here. Except it's gonna need that running start. So, voting time, ladies and gentlemen. Your vote matters. So, we're gonna choose power to run with. Your options. I am going to narrow it down. So there's a lot of neat locomotives with the pack. We're going to either run with... we can run with GP... We can run with 2 of what I'm going to show you, max. So we've got GP15s, GP40, the SD24, which is probably what I'm going to be tempted to run with, or the GMD1. So, cast your votes. While you cast your votes, we're going to stage our session. So, we're talking about bringing log cars off the branch. Actually, bringing off the log... So, let's talk about the operating scheme. So, according to the operating scheme, according to the article here in Model Railroader, this was served by 2 trains. So you had one train that would basically come solely for the purpose of serving the interchange with the logs. Well, earlier. Later, you kind of this railroad folded, and then it was just switching Morton. And then there was a second train that did all the local switching. I think we're just going to combine it as one. So we'll just have a few cars for pickup here at the interchange rather than a ton. And we'll make it a pickup set out kind of a deal, where you've got like 3 coming in and 3 going out, which may be a low number, but just for the sake of not having too much going on at once, that might be the way to go. So we're gonna stage some log cars here, like so, and we're gonna load those up. And then we'll bring in a few empties. So we've got the whole raison d'etre. We've got our logging train. I think that's just going to take 1, and then we copy that to the other cars. Perfect. Okay. So we've got our log cars coming in and going out. We need some lumber product cars. We're definitely going to need some box cars. We've got 50-foot box cars here. A number of options there. So we'll put a couple of cars for pickup. I mean, I think I want to keep this relatively simple because I don't want to be running this for more than a half hour. So we'll have a couple of box cars that we're picking up from that mill, and then a couple that we're setting out at that mill. Just so I don't have to be like pulling and plugging cars all night. So we have 2 box cars coming in there. We should pick up an empty flat from here, I'm thinking. I want to keep that interesting, actually. I think I know. I want to have a heavy ton. Oh, I wanted to add that, but that's a little too big. There's something a bit shorter. I mean, that's shorter, but that's a little too... Whatever. My railroad. That's the flat car that brought in some kind of logging equipment. we're picking up an empty flat from there. And let's set out a tanker at that fuel dealer. So, okay, so we're doing a switch of the logs, bringing in empties, picking up loads, and well, nah, tank car. Too much fun to be had with this design. Let's go with a UTLX tank. Ooh. And then I saw the cylindrical hopper, and I'm like, oh, that's a pretty car. Although that's not something you'd actually have feed in. That's more of like a cement car. Well, I guess you could have feed in a car like that. I forget what the criteria are for the different types of grain cars. But we could set that out on the feed track, and that'd be sort of interesting. Just have, well, nah. We'll do a conventional tank car. So that UTLX tanker. My cat giving me a heart attack as he jumps onto my desk. Okay, so we've got our 2 incoming boxcars for the mill, and the 3 empty logs with 1 tank car fuel. Okay, and we'll, should I put a caboose on it just to say we did? I mean, that could be kind of fun. Yeah, why not? We're gonna put a caboose on this. So, last call for your votes before we make a call as far as what we're gonna run. So that's our train inbound, and the power. Oh, thank you very much for the super chat there, Joey. Appreciate the support. I see SD24, GP40, a lot of votes for the GMD. I'm seeing GMD is number 1, and I'm seeing a number for the SD24 as well. What if we ran, I think, for funsies, let's run, how would it look if we ran, because it's our railroad and we can run what we want. We'll run the GMDX with the SD24. That, or maybe I'll use the GMDXs to like do the log transfer. So they'll go pick up the logs and yep, I like that. Okay, so we'll play with a little bit of each. We'll mainly do SD24s, and we'll do a little bit of GMD. So that I like that way of doing things. So we've got these. That's nice power. Okay, so we've got the SD24s. We're going to stage those on our incoming log local, which admittedly probably could be powered by 1. So we'll run 1 in, and then we'll do. Yeah, we'll run this guy in. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, enough talk. Let's play. I mean, I am going to continue to talk, but let's talk and play. And here we go. So, I'm going to have to turn down the volume for myself. Okay, hopefully you can still hear everything. Oh, my selected train has no driver for reasons, so I'm going to have to fix that briefly. Now it should have a driver. There we go. Oh, and I probably should let it start because this game is weird. So, we'll start. Good. Okay. So our train's climbing out of staging, and I should make sure I've lined it into the yard appropriately, because that's the type of thing that I would forget to do. We'll appreciate the river scene. And I'll switch the viewing angle just a little bit so we get a nice view as we come out there. I mean, that makes me happy. That is a cool scene. Good thing these are mostly empty cars. So one of the compromises that the creator had to make, the designer of this layout, is that in real life this would be an uphill grade out of town, and in fact they did use helpers, but because he wanted the staging to go underneath the layout proper, it ended up being above ground. Or it ended up being downgrade. Oh, I've got these kicked. Let me turn off the cars. I just noticed all these cars flying around. Doing who knows what kinds of speeds. Okay, no more cars. Yay. And so here we are coming into the main yard, which is really nice to have because it gives you a lot more flexibility. So you're coming in with your train, then you have the ability to break things down to where they need to go. So let us look at the game plan. We've got these empty log flats that need to go and be switched with loaded log flats. We have the box cars that need to be spotted here. Tank car needs to be spotted here. So basically, our engine is in the complete wrong spot because everything needs to be on the other side, which at least keeps it somewhat easy to keep track of. So, let us first take care of spotting these cars, because then that makes these log flats accessible for the switcher. So we're just going to run around our train here. And I think this is a real... I mean, how many yards, even outside the Pacific Northwest, can you think of where you have... You've probably seen... Oh, my cat wants me to hold him. But you could probably think of yards where it's like you have the track right next to the yard. And I think that just... It's a nice scenic element. It's a nice way of having foreground scenery that isn't just more grass. So we're gonna make sure our switches are aligned, and then bring ourselves back here, which will give us access to those. I mean, I suppose I could pull those box cars now. Doesn't really matter. Pull the box cars and the flat, come to think of it. Since we're here anyway. Less stuff we have to do later. I can pull them, I put them on track tune, then they're already where they need to be for the sake of leaving town. I have to say, somebody, when I shared this to Facebook, somebody commented and said that the Eagle River Railway scheme is a really nice paint scheme, and I agree. I think the paint scheme looks awesome. I think the logo looks awesome. It's just a really cool concept. Or Ohio Northeastern, you want to see Luca? He's kind of comfortable on my lap at the moment. Stick around and I'll show him to you. Once it seems like he's done being on my lap and wants to move, or maybe at the end of the stream, I'll make sure Luca makes a cameo. So, I'm digging the freight car sounds that these have as well. Of course, I want to thank Jointed Rail, our sponsor for today, for providing this equipment. And I highly recommend you check that out. If you have Trains E, the Eagle River Railway is a very cool, about 15 or 20 mile long route, real scale, with a couple of activities. It's a really nifty operation, a really well thought out world, with a lot of good rolling stock included, and it's like $15 or something like that. It's really very affordable. Okay, so we're pulling our loaded box cars from the mill. We're pulling the empty flat car from the team track. So we're just going to spot those there, and then that puts us in just the right place for taking these box cars. We could spot them at the mill here. Tank car at the fuel distributor over there, and then we can use our switcher. I mean, the switcher seems kind of superfluous at this point, but I know you guys want to see the GMD one in action, so we'll have a little bit of fun with that. I think I know how I want to do that, actually. Yep. I know. But yeah, I think this is a really well thought out track plan. I mean, the cons of it, if you want continuous running, you don't have that. But I think it offers a good variety of freight. Like, it's not all just logs or box cars, or you have a variety of freight cars you can use. I think the way that they have the staging set up with the log transfer here is creative. Yeah, really just not having a loop is kind of a bummer, but not the end of the world. I might have to play around with these grades a little bit, because having this have to push uphill is kind of a bummer. Obviously not an issue you'd have in real life with the model, but with the physics in this game, sometimes diesels don't like to go up hills that are very steep. Be a Thomas fan, there's a steam locomotive by K&L. Yes, and sometime maybe we'll... I feel like we might revisit the Eagle River Railway as a concept in the future, maybe with another track plan. And then we'll play around with the steam locomotives. Okay, so now I want to shove boxcar. Well, I want to spot the boxcars, but I definitely don't want to spot them with all of this stuff in the front. So I'm just going to push them out the other end here, so that way I can just grab them with the locomotive. Actually, I could just grab them with the switcher, which I kind of like. But maybe I'll just grab them with our engine. That tank car is getting spotted right there, so that's pretty easy. So what do you guys think of this build? What are your thoughts on this as you look at the kind of finished product, recognizing it needs a lot of polish before I release it? But in terms of illustrating the concept, I feel like we have enough here to kind of illustrate what this would look like in broad strokes, and you can see it in action. And to me, the play value on this, I think it's got really good play value. You definitely got enough for one crew, maybe two. I mean, you could probably split the switching responsibilities if you want, by having somebody focus on working in town and somebody focusing on these industries. That could be interesting to coordinate. keep in mind, this is a 9 by 11 room. And you've already, like, this is presuming that you only have this room to stand in. You probably don't want more than 2 people in the room at a time. Maybe 3. Oh, oopsie. Oopsie. Y'all saw nothing. It's all good. We just spotted the tank car. Everything's good. Except that car keeps rolling. But we spotted the tank car. I am not able to place a new one. Sometimes layers can be a nuisance. Oh, because it's the root layer and we're actually on the upper level. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, we spotted that tank car. Nothing dramatic happened. Now we can back up. And so that's going to enable us to fetch the box cars and spot them there, and then the logging flats the switcher can take to the mill. So actually what I think I'm going to do is use these convenient crossovers here to fetch the box cars, then I'll feed the empty flats, and then we'll do that exchange. So here's our GMP1. Which, as I say, being dual citizen, I do have a soft spot for Canadian rolling stock, or ex-Canadian rolling stock in this case. So we're just going to grab these, pull them back, and then pump the flaps. You know, the problem is I build these layouts, and every time I build one, I'm like, oh, I could see building that in real life. It's like, I don't need more layouts to build. I don't have enough space for the ideas I have, let alone coming up with a new idea every month. But man, this is a cool design. This is really nifty. Okay, now we're gonna shove these cars forward. So that's going to put the... Oop, nope. But I'm not set on the right track. So I'm just going to rewind the clock a little bit. Get my switches set. And now I'm going to put those logging flats right where I want them. Which is great because then the caboose is where we want it, and we'll put the logs on the head end of the train as it departs. So that'll be perfect. I like how that works. So yeah, running this with 2 crews, I think would be really fun. But even if you're just running it yourself, there's a good amount to do with this. And the thing about a logging railroad, so you could model this as the Milwaukee Road. According to the article, they used their Malay steam locomotives on this part of the line, so you could use those. But diesel arrow-wise, you had F units. Like, can you imagine an ABBA set of Milwaukee Road F units pulling logs? It was a thing. You know, when you freelance, it gives you so much freedom, and you could really go to town with either doing this as Milwaukee Road or just kind of ad hocing it with whatever power you want, and just making up your own railroad. So, We've got our flats ready. Now we're going to go through town. And we are going to drop them in the pole yard first. Oh, I should clean up that junction. That's a little messy. That's better. Okay. So we're going to drop these empties in the pole yard. And maybe I'm going a little too fast through town. Well, we'll slow down a wee bit. But there's some nice scenes to be had in here. I like that you're right downtown. And that's true to the prototype as well. So I love how the train is able to go right through the downtown like this. And I think if you were doing an excursion train, I mean, you definitely could do an excursion train kind of setup where it's stopping at the depot here and then you're running. It's interesting. It would be interesting to do because I feel like as an excursion train, you either have like 3 cars and then you run around them by way of Ying them, or you push the train back into the yard, Y your power, and then recouple and push back. That's probably the way you'd have to do it. Which is a challenge, but, you know, yay for a natural challenge created by the lay of the land. Mikey, yes, Eagle River does look close to DRGW in some ways. The hand of God, yes, Kevin. Sometimes one needs to use the hand of God. Picking up these logs from the interchange. And there we go. Let's have a look at this scene from this way. I mean, that is a good scene. That makes me happy. And so, as I was stating earlier, you've got in the original plan, this tail track doesn't exist. This is a sector plate over here. So basically, you'd be storing your log cars here behind this backdrop and pushing them onto the sector plate, moving the sector plate over, and then pulling them off the plate so that you could make up a train of about 12 cars. And then operationally, you'd have one train that's all they'd do. They'd come into town, they'd drop off the empties and pick up the loads. That's one thing that I never had fully explained is how you do that. I think you'd have to pick up the loads first so that your interchange track is empty. Then you come back with the empties and feed them in there, which would work. Oops. I'm going down the Y track. Although, admittedly, I suppose we should show that because folks who came earlier might not have seen that concept. So, this Y fits into the corner of the room, but there's not enough room for a switch and a tail track. So, how do you get around that? You put in a sector plate, or in this case, a turntable. And I'll show that at work in just a moment. So we're gonna recouple to our train. I'll turn the power even though I don't need to, just so that you can see that in action, and then we'll bring this back to the yard. Right, we're coupled back up, so we're going to put those into the interchange track. And then we'll Y the power just because why not? And yes, I did mean to make a pun. Man, this would be a fun layout build. And also not insanely difficult. Let me make sure I have headroom on that turntable. Okay, I have enough headroom. I'm like, oh crap, I went the wrong way and I might not have enough headroom. Let's see. And okay, good. I gave myself enough headroom. That works. So yeah, not an insanely difficult build. Like, yeah, you have some grades to build, but nothing super large. I mean, really, I haven't added up the square footage of this, but I don't think it'd be that much larger than a 4x8 in terms of the total amount of room you need. Okay. So there's our empty cars dropped off at the interchange. I'm going to Y the power just so you can see that concept at work of the sector plate. And making sure my switches are set there so I don't give myself grief in the future. So we go behind the scenery, the backdrop. Stop our power here. Move the sector plate over. And voila. Now we've turned our power around. Which would be very handy if you were, say, running a steam locomotive excursion or just modeling this in the steam era, and then you have a way of turning your power around. And for those who didn't see earlier, the track plan calls for a turntable. So this goes up to staging that's underneath the layout, and there's a turntable right here. So that's how you would turn your power around on the lower level. Throw that switch, and now we've turned the power around. We'll get coupled up to the train, bring it back into the yard. Those two box cars need to be taken to the to this mill, which this is a good reminder that sometimes you can model an industry that would be gigantic by way of just showing the loading or unloading area and then having the rest of it be where you're standing, and that saves you the trouble of having to build a gigantic complex. Oh, I suppose I should have had wood chip cars for something. There definitely is something that one of these industries takes wood chips. I forget which. But we've done a good amount of work as it is with what we have. Let's enjoy this view by the station. That's a neat scene. So you'll remember that a couple months ago we were on the show building my future engine terminal. And the question was, do I model city or country? And a lot of those who voiced opinion said that they like the country version of that better. And seeing how this looks nestled in the mountains, I'm inclined to agree that I'm going to make my engine terminal in the country, because I do think that there's something about feeling like you're in this, not claustrophobic space, but this tight space, that the world's larger because look at these distant mountains, as opposed to kind of cities which can feel cramped. Oop, not what I wanted to do. I want that coupled, and I want that coupled. So we're going to spot these cars at the mill. Those loads need to go on to... So I need to have this pick up those flats, and make sure those switches are thrown. I'm just going to spot these on one track for the sake of time. I've definitely seen one of those big flashers where you have them on highways where it's the big stand and they hang over the road. I think that would look cool here. Or on the flip side, just even an old-fashioned crossing. Sometimes these things, they just never upgraded the infrastructure. But it does have a rubber mat, so it probably should be the way we do it. Anyway, I'm gonna leave him there because I need to use this to grab the logs. Then we'll get a couple back up to our train here. Oh, check out this cab. Is that a cool view or what? Like, this is a work of art in how beat up it looks. Anyway, before I get too caught up, I should make sure my switches are thrown correctly. We'll get the log cars picked up, put back on our train, then we'll take off out of town. And that will be the stream. So, it's been great to have you guys along. For those of you who were here when we were having connectivity issues, thank you for your patience and thank you for staying around. Yeah, the lone single middle window on the SD24 is nice, John. I agree with you on that. Jimmy, the view inside and out of the cab is the whole soul of the layout in a snapshot. Well, thank you. That's what we're going for. There's character to this. There's definitely, I mean, there's character to the rolling stock and to the paint scheme. I mean, it looks legit. Sorry if I keep saying it looks legit. I know I've said that a lot tonight. It looks really sharp. And looks believable. And I think this is a fun plan. This is one that could really keep you entertained for a good hour or so, depending on how complex your switching is. Maybe even a couple of hours if you're kind of running different turns of things. So if you did like a day in the life of where you're running, let's say, an excursion train, a log train, and a local, that could be a lot of fun, and that could keep you busy for a while. And again, 9 feet by 11 feet. Like, even if you're in an apartment, if you have a spare bedroom, you could you could probably fit this in there. Like, even in my office, I mean, not now, because I have other layouts. The trick with my office is where the closet doors are. That made things interesting. Oh, somebody wanted to see the kitty. Okay. The audience wants to see you while we're waiting for my locomotive. So, here's Luca. Luca is my baby. He loves being held, although right now he's kind of like, I want to be fed. So, hence why he's not super still, but there's your cat cameo for the evening. I'm going to fast forward this to get us underway sooner. And stop before we completely destroy the knuckles by the hard couple. Oof. That is a nice consist. It's a good consist. Screenshot moment. So now we're going to head out of town. And that's going to be the stream. Definitely works with the slow speeds too. Like this is a layout where running at slow speeds feels right and helps to make the most out of the short amount of time you have. Let me readjust so I can get a nice view of the crossing. There we go. Oh, that's a nice view too. And I hope that this has shown that there's a lot of merits to doing a modern logging railroad. Obviously, a lot of us love our geared locomotives. And you could do this with that too. You could absolutely run geared locomotives on this. But this is fun. The goal of this is showcasing that there's something to be done for modern logging as well. A lot of interesting prototypes out there that you can look at, whether things like the Simpson Railroad, which ran until about 2015, and some on Vancouver Island that ran into the 2010s. So, a lot of fun. So, as our train is about to slowly disappear from view as it goes around the next corner of things, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Great Train Layouts Live, sponsored by Jointed Rail. You should totally check out the Eagle River Railway, link in the description. And as always, if you would like me to help you to visualize your dream layout, I do take commissions. You can go to greattrainlayouts.com, which is also where you can download all of the layouts that we build on the stream. Eventually they make their way there. Our most recent release was the D&H branch line that we did last fall. So that's now available for download. And if you want to get early access to these layouts, you can go to patreon.com/theroundus. There's a link in the description for that as well. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. It's been great to have you along for the ride. And I will see you in a couple of weeks. And we're going to do something a little bit different. It's going to be a little different. It's going to be a lot of fun. Have a good night.